Okay, so I know this is probably a bit late. Come on here. Literally should put you in a ponytail. You're gonna do me like that? Just that one strand's gonna come loose. Anyway, now that that's tucked away into its little hidey hole, there's a little movie came out in November at the theaters, and it just recently released on DVD. Well, I didn't have time to go see it in theaters, mainly because I was too busy focused on Spider-Man: No Way Home. But here we are, finally. Now that it's out, I think you know where I'm going with this. Resident Evil, welcome to Raccoon City. Now, this movie gets a lot of hate, I've noticed. And if you are a hardcore Resident Evil fan who doesn't like shakeups from the core, I can see why. The movie does things drastically different. There's a lot of baffling decisions. Um, but before I go over that, I go over my negative Nancy stuff and what I didn't like, and what I think they could have done better, and what I think they should have done. I'm going to go over the stuff in the movie that I actually genuinely liked, because I did enjoy the film, and I think on subsequent watch-throughs later, I'll enjoy it more for what it is, because the movie is not bad by any means. As a horror movie, this movie is actually good. Just not a good retelling of the source material. A lot closer than, obviously, Paul W.S. Anderson's, which didn't even attempt the source material and just sort of bastardized its own canonical characters. I mean, Chris was awful, Leon was awful, Ada's so-so. I mean, her character's pretty so-so to begin with, so it's kind of hard to get her character wrong. It's more of the fact that Leon and Ada were only in one movie, and then actors refused to return or something like that. Um, out of all of the characters, I think they casted right. Obviously, Jill and Claire, which were the two longest tenured Resident Evil canon characters to appear throughout the franchise. And then Nemesis. I really enjoyed Nemesis in the second one. It's all that. But anyway, yeah, this movie, as a retelling of the games from the source material, is not good. And I'll explain why a little later. But first, I want to get over the good stuff. Like I said, I did enjoy the film as a film. The film was good. It was well made. Visual effects were great. I loved the way the zombies looked. I loved the way the monsters looked. Lisa Trevor, the Lickers, Birkin. I think those were the only monsters. It was Birkin's two forms and the one Licker. And of course, all the zombies. I believe there's only one zombie dog throughout the film. Maybe two, but it's hard to tell. But it could be the same zombie dog from the semi guy, but I think it could possibly be a different one. But I think it's the same one. So there's only one dog as well. A lot of zombies though. I think the use of the zombies was probably their strongest asset, especially in the mansion incident. The other thing I can say I really liked about this movie was the set design. The set designs in this movie were amazing. I loved every set in this movie. This movie did not have a bad set at all. I think the way the mansion looked was amazing. The police station looked great. And all the other minor stuff, the umbrella corporate hallways, whatever, the set was probably, honestly, the best well done thing in this movie was probably the set and costume design. Because even the costume design for all the characters were pretty much spot on from the games. I mean, whether they're spot on from the original or the remake too, because it seemed like the source materials was really Resident Evil Remake and Resident Evil Remake 2. I think those were the biggest two, you could say, inspirations came from. They said Capcom gave them a schematic, a blueprint schematic of the police station and mansion and stuff. So that's probably why they did such a good job. But yeah, I mean, the set design, the costume design, the visual effects of this movie were all great. And here's the one thing that I don't know if it's going to be contentious or controversial opinion, but I think the casting in this film was amazing. I really do. I mean, the guy who played Chief Irons and Birkin, they were both great semi-antagonists. I mean, Chief Irons certainly wasn't as diabolical in this film as he is in the games, where he's just a straight-up dick to Claire. Is hell bent on kidnapping Cherry for some reason, and has the mayor's dead daughter strapped to a table in the orphanage. Yeah, so Chief Irons certainly more of a dickish protagonist than this movie before he's killed off by the liquor. So there's that. William Birkin, spot on character. The rest of his family, not so much. Now we're just gonna get into the main ones. Obviously, Chris, Jill, Wesker, Leon, and Claire. So Chris, Jill, Claire, and Wesker are pretty much almost spot on from the video games. I mean, the biggest changes obviously is Wesker not wearing his sunglasses and more slick black, bleach blonde hair, and Jill being black when she's white. But it doesn't really matter. I mean, those are just sort of small changes, but otherwise, the way they act, except for Wesker. We'll get to Wesker in a moment. But I think all the characters look really good for their character and act really well for their character, except for Leon and Wesker. Now, honestly, don't mind Avon Joja, or Beck from Victorious, as Leon. I mean, I know a lot of people are wanting to be, the blonde, but, it really doesn't matter all that much. I think he embodies the spirit of Leon good enough. I think the biggest issue with Leon was the director laying into the rookie stigma. Like, they just, I don't know, in my opinion, there was no need to make Leon the butt of every joke when he's present, which they pretty much do. Anytime he's on the screen with someone and somebody's making a joke, it's at his expense, making him look like an idiot, making him look like a fool. The movie makes him look very incompetent as a survivor. This Leon Kennedy would have not survived the night if it wasn't for Claire Redfield. For real. I mean, this version of Leon, I cannot see being handpicked by the president to join the forces and go save his daughter in a couple of years. I just can't see it. They made him look so incompetent and so just not that good. Like, he was bottom rank in police training academy, but then again, they said he was a transfer because he shot his partner in the butt or something like that, which is dumb. No. He's a rookie who was on the first day, going to work on the first day of his job. He overslept because he woke up hungover after getting drunk because his girlfriend broke up with him. That's the original Anyway, the remake, they told him to stay home because reasons. But he decided to go out anyway. But in the original, he was late to work because he got drunk after his girlfriend broke up with him. Yeah, it makes sense. I don't know how long they were together. But yeah, so that seems to be kind of what they were uh, insinuating here, because he wakes up hungover in a hotel. But if they didn't make him the butt of every joke and actually gave him some moments, because they definitely shined a lot more on Claire. I feel like out of all of the main five that you have on the cover, Leon is definitely the least focused on, because he's the butt of the joke. He's incompetent. He messes up so much and almost comes close to dying so many times. It baffles me. It really does. Like, they couldn't have made him look at least a slight more competent with the gun. They couldn't have made him look, I don't know, slightly less of a screw up in everyone's eyes. Everybody shits on him, for lack of a better term. It's probably one of the most frustrating things you can do as a moviegoer in this film, as a Resident Evil fan. It's just watching them consistently make Leon look like a fool and rip into him, when he's one of the most beloved Resident Evil characters of all time. It made no sense to me. I get he's a rookie, but come on. You saw the events of the game. He's not that incompetent. Jeez. I get not understanding stuff, but they didn't need to make him look like an idiot in every scene just about. He gets the rocket launcher scene at the end, and that's about it, because even with his rage shoot on the zombie, Claire's like, "You done being a toddler yet?" I mean, she didn't actually say that, but that's basically what she said. Anyway, enough of Leon. The other one was Wesker. And this change is probably more conflicting to me, because there are aspects of this that I actually like, that I actually enjoy. In this film, Wesker is not ingrained deep into Umbrella. He's not a high-ranking Umbrella official. He's not a rival to Birkin. He's not even a part of Umbrella. He just has this thing in his hand that he's getting messages from, telling him to go do something for money. So he pretty much is ingrained in stars, gets a message for a lot of money, and it's like, hey, might as well do it, right? I want out of this place. So he does it. And that's the double cross, even though the double cross really is, he was a Umbrella plant from the beginning and actively brought everyone in stars there to use as combat training. Whereas in this movie, he is the legit part of the team, out of the loop, going there, trying to find the place this person is telling him to, so he can get the sample, leave. Potentially with his friends or not, I don't know. They don't really make that part clear. I'm sure he's willing to leave without them, but I'm pretty sure this Wesker would probably want to do his best to leave with everyone. But yeah, they made Wesker more human, more likable. They changed Wesker from a cold-hearted scientist who was all about combat data to a likable team leader who just caves for money. And they make that very clear from the beginning when you first meet Jill, Wesker, and I believe it's Aiken. Pretty sure it was Richard Aiken in the diner scene and not Brad Vickers. So yeah, it's very conflicting because I think Wesker is probably the most compelling character and almost the most likable character in this entire film. That's not something I was expecting to say after I finished it at all. But he, quite frankly, is the most compelling character. He has the most compelling story throughout the whole film out of anyone. And not to mention, they made him a lot more likable, a lot more goofy, a lot more silly, and personality, a lot more lighthearted. But near the end, obviously, he's all about seriousness. But, in the beginning half, when you're in the diner and you're in the stars room, he's very lighthearted. You see how silly and goofy he can be, but then in the mansion and everything, you see his seriousness, his deep thought, his confliction, his confusion, and all that stuff. So, yeah, I'm very conflicted because out of everyone in the film, I think his origin deviates the most, which is saying something. But it's the best done deviation out of the whole film. And then I don't know what they're doing with Ada. Because at the end, Wesker comes out, butt-ass naked, can't see. Ada gives him some sunglasses, says it's a side effect, and says her name and leaves. So that makes me curious. What, is she just a straight-up antagonist in this game? Because her whole plot points in any game she's been in has been her on and off again complicated relationship with Leon Kennedy. Her storylines is always ingrained with Leon Kennedy because her main games are 2, 4, and 6. What all 3 of those games have in common? Her interlinking storyline with Leon Kennedy, who she does not even interact with in this film. She's only in one scene, and it was the post-credit scene. She wasn't even in the main game. I mean, the main movie. Now, there was Barry Burton. Barry Burton was never even present. Rebecca Chambers, never even present. I guess they're just dead, aren't they? I get Rebecca's part of the team that went in first, and then she runs into Chris. But, I mean, you could have at least done that, but I get why they didn't, because of this glaring mistake. Okay, so now we're going to get into the stuff I hate. I like a lot of things about the set, the casting, how the characters are acting as their characters, and the visual effects and stuff. And then Leon and Wesker have the more conflicting points because Leon's just treated like absolute garbage in this film, and Wesker has the most compelling deviation from the games. Now we're just gonna get to the stuff that I outright hated. And I've got to start it off with this one, and that's the whole Redfield umbrella, or technically not umbrella. Oh yeah, I guess you would say the whole orphanage. The Redfields growing up in the orphanage, and Claire meets Lisa Trevor in the orphanage, who never leaves the mansion in the games. She's technically never in the orphanage ever. She was the daughter of the architect, and they experimented on her in the mansion labs. She never makes it to Raccoon City. After she becomes Lisa Trevor, she just lives underground in the mansion premises. So yeah, the whole Redfields and Lisa Trevor being at the orphanage is probably one of the most mind-boggling decisions in the entire story arc. Because I get it, they changed Claire's motives from finding Chris and only finding Chris, because that is her main motive in Resident Evil 2, is to find Chris, and then it shifts to protecting Sherry and escaping. But the main motive was always find Chris, and then it became protect Sherry and escape once you realize Chris isn't there. They changed it from that to let's blow this conspiracy theory out of the water here. I want to expose Umbrella. So they changed her from that to a conspiracy theorist. basically. I don't like it. I think they should have just kept it simple. They should have not done the whole orphanage thing, because Lisa Trevor's very much a mansion uh, monster, not a Resident Evil 2 monster. She's Resident Evil 1. And they turned her into a protagonist. She's a good guy in the film. She's not a bad guy. She's a good guy. She's Claire's friend. Um, and kills the only licker in the movie. Which, kudos to her. It was a cool fight, honestly. It was actually a really well done fight. It just made no sense to me because Lisa Trevor is not a good person anymore. She's not really a person anymore. She's a misunderstood monster, basically, who just wants to find her mom. And she's willing to kill anyone to do so. I mean, I don't know. The whole orphanage plot point with Claire being a conspiracy theorist and Chris being the good soldier boy raised, I just don't sit well with it. I don't like that change. The Wesker change is a lot more viable because it was actually done good. It was actually done very well. I don't think the whole Redfield orphanage thing was done well, in my opinion. I just don't think it was. Yeah. Another thing aside from, you know, that dumb stuff, the Barry Burton, Rebecca Chambers absence. It makes sense for what they were going for, but it's also a giant disappointment because Barry Burton's one of the best characters in the whole franchise, and I don't know why you'd want to exclude him. So the this is probably one of my biggest gripes as well. So like I said, Lisa Trevor is Resident Evil 1 villain, and Birkin is very much a Resident Evil 2 villain. So why do Leon and Claire interact with Lisa Trevor, and Jill, Chris, and Wesker interact with the Birkins? Like, in the end, conflicting moments. Why did you swap the two villains with the game protagonist? I don't understand. Why are you having Lisa interact with the second game's protagonist and having Birkin interact with the first game's? I don't understand it. I don't like it. I think it was stupid. I think it was very dumb. I did not like that decision at all. You should have kept Lisa in the mansion and Birkin in the police station. Or at least in the underground labs. Only in the underground labs. It doesn't have to be in the police station, obviously. But yeah, I just don't like that whole decision. I think it was very dumb. You only see Hunk throughout the game once, and that was it. And I think that was just him saying, "You've got Raccoon City control," or whatever. I don't like that. It rubs me the wrong way just as much as the whole Redfield Lisa Trevor orphanage thing does. I don't like that at all either. For this film in particular, if you had never played Resident Evil 1 or 2, probably wouldn't bother you. You'd probably be thinking, okay, yeah, that's understandable. Because as a film, from start to finish, it is good. As long as you are not a die-hard Resident Evil fan, which is what this movie was trying to cater to, and then failed because of those two big glaring things. The other thing that I want to say is that, and this was the biggest thing I didn't like to begin with, the moment I heard that this movie was going to be covering the events of the first and second game, which makes no sense, because the first game takes place in July of 1998, and Resident Evil 2 and 3 take place at the end of September in 1998, 3 months later. So why are you doing 1 and 2 when they take place 3 months apart, instead of 2 and 3 when they literally happen in the same day. The fact that you did this and you have Claire find Chris, obviously, just completely demolishing her actual motive that she continues forward with going on in the games, and Jill there as well, makes it very hard for you to do 2 games in particular. Resident Evil 3 is absolutely obsolete now. There's no reason for it to happen in any way, shape, or form with the events that happen in this movie. Resident Evil 3 cannot happen with what happens in this movie. Jill already escapes Raccoon City at the end with everyone. Therefore, Resident Evil 3 doesn't exist. Because that is literally the point of Resident Evil 3. Is Jill herself escaping Raccoon City. Because Chris, Barry, they had all gone already. You know, Claire and Leon were in the police station, and Jill was fighting Nemesis throughout the streets. So what are they going to do with Nemesis then? Is he ever even going to appear now? Because he is literally the most iconic villain, monster villain, in the entire series. And now he just has no place in your franchise because you made Resident Evil 3 obsolete by meshing 1 and 2 in the same night. I don't like that. That's dumb. Code Veronica, you can still technically, viably make happen. I mean, they did tease the Ashford twins in the reel when Leon and Claire go down the elevator. But the whole point, the whole premises of Code Veronica was Claire was continuing her search for Chris. Because Chris said he went to Europe to vacation. So Claire went to a Paris, I believe it was, a Paris umbrella facility and got caught. Because she was still looking for Chris. She was like, hey, here's an umbrella facility. I might as well try it. See what's going on in there. Take it out if I can. So it's not obsolete, but you definitely have to change a lot of things, just like you did with this film. So sorry, I had to burp there. That leads me to what I wanted to end on. They should not have combined Resident Evil 1 and 2 into one movie. The storylines just don't mesh well enough, and you had to cut and change a whole lot of things. Some were good, a lot were bad, a lot were worse. So yeah, you really should not have combined 1 and 2. It made no sense, and the film suffered greatly for it in terms of a fan's eye point of view. What they should have done was they should have just made Resident Evil 1 into its own film. You had Wesker, you had Jill, you had Chris, you had Richard Aiken, you had Brad Vickers. All you needed to do was throw in 3 more characters and some monsters, and you were good. Right? I mean, technically, you also had Lisa Trevor. But all you needed to do was throw in Barry Burton, Rebecca Chambers, and Enrico, and you were good. Those were the only 3 characters you needed to add to isolate the mansion. Because you already got your main villain, Wesker. You already got your other main side monster plot with Lisa. Right? Brad's not even in the movie for... not even in the game for most of the time because he flew off like a chicken. And of course, Richard, he dies to a snake. All you had to do was I don't know, maybe you could probably cut Neptune or the giant snake. No, I was thinking spider. You could probably cut Neptune and the tiger and do the Yon fight uh, and the Plant 42 fight. Maybe. I don't know. If I had to keep one of those two, I'd definitely keep Yon. If you only want to focus on Wesker, Yon, and Lisa Trevor, I think that's fine. You know, if I had to throw another one in there, it would be Plant 42, and that's it. But yeah, and then you would do 2 and 3 together because they literally take place at the same time. You have 3 starts. Jill gets knocked out. All of 2 happens. Jill wakes up. She escapes too. Yeah, it's as simple as that. And then from there, you can do Code Veronica and 4 as separate films as well, and so on and so forth. That would have been the better game plan. You would have gotten a lot more in. You would have been able to stay more faithful, and the characters would have been intact more than what you had in this film. I think overall, like I said, it is a good movie. It is just not a good retelling of the Resident Evil 1 and 2 games. It looks good, the cast looks great, the set looks great, but the way the story flowed was just completely wrong. That's just how I feel about it. If you feel differently, let me know in the comments below. Sorry if you're distracted by the cat onesie. I wanted to test it out. Thought it was a dog at first, but no, it's the cat. This is like a sleep visor thing. Very weird, very loose. Doesn't really work as a sleep visor. But yeah, I hope you have a great day. Remember, only you can get the best you can possibly be. If you like, comment, comment, that's awesome. Subscribe if you haven't. That really mean out. Ta-ta.